Namaste. I am Megha Mandal of class 12th A, studying in KV2 SVN, Vishakhapatnam.
Today I'm going to give a presentation on the poem My Mother at 66. The poem is written by Kamala Das. Explanation of first stanza. Driving from my parents' home to Cochin last Friday morning, I saw my mother beside me. In these lines, the poet recalls a trip back to Cochin from her holiday in her parents' house the previous week. It was a Friday, and that morning she was driving with her mother next to her on the front seat. Second stanza, nose open mouthed, her face ashen like that of a corpse, and realized with pain that she was as old as she looked, but soon put that thought away. And in these lines, the poet says that she was observing her mother, who had fallen asleep on the front seat with her mouth slightly open. Her mother's face was pale, and it reminded her of the nearly white faces of dead bodies. It is then that she comes to realize that her mother was not young any longer, and that her appearance had caught up with her age. This was very hard for the poet to accept, and so she was determined to focus her attention on something else. Third stanza. Look out at young trees sprinting, the merry children spilling out of their homes. But after the airport security check, standing a few yards away, I looked again at her, gone pale. In these lines, the poet says that she turned away from her aging mother and decided to look outside the windows of the car in which she was driving. Outside, her eyes fell on the trees that the vehicle was passing by. The car was moving so fast that by way of relative motion, it seemed to the poet that all the trees she could see were also running at full speed past her. It seemed that those trees must have been quite youthful if they had the energy to move at such a fast pace. The poet's eyes also fell on the children who were coming out of their houses, brimming over with their excitement to get outside. The poet passed all these sights and reached the airport. Till then, her mind was distracted by the sights. However, after the security check, she was standing a short distance away from her mother, and again she chanced to notice the old woman. Just as before, her mother appeared very pale and insipid. Fourth stanza. As a late winter's moon and felt that old familiar ache, my childhood's fear. But all I said was, see you soon, Amma. All I did was smile and smile and smile. In these lines, the poet compares her mother's face with the sight of the moon on a night towards the end of winter. This made her recall the thing she had been most afraid of during her childhood, the fear that her mother would die one day. This was a fear that had plagued her many times before, and it was plaguing her again now. However, she did not let that fear show itself on her face. Instead, she put up a brave face and waved goodbye to her mother. She assured her mother that they would be seeing each other again soon. And all the while, even though she was in great agony, the smile never left her face. Introduction. Poet Kamala Das is my mother at 66 author. Kamla Das was born in Malabar, Kerala. She recalls here about the time she had a flight to catch and her mother accompanied her. She said her mother looked old and that was childhood fear. To see her mother grow old in front of her eyes. And it was being true. Summary. One day the poet was driving from her parents' home to Cochin. It was a Friday. And then she saw and she suddenly realized that her mother had grown old. She saw her mother beside her and her mother felt like a corpse with a little life inside her. Then it struck her that this was reality and her mother was really growing old. She felt helpless and so she soon put the thought of losing her mother away from her mind. Then she looked at the young trees which she left behind as the car drove in the front direction. She looked at young children playing and it reminded her of youth. Unlike her mother growing old, which was her childhood fear, at the airport security check, she saw her mother again and felt like she was looking at the winter snow. The late winter moon is referred here because she felt winter moon is pale and calm, which symbolizes old age. Then she bade her goodbye and told her that she would see her soon again. She smiled because she could not let her mother know about her old age and her fears. And so she just wished her to see her soon again. Conclusion. In conclusion, My Mother at 66 is a poem full of figure of speeches that enhance its beauty and emotional impact. The simile, metaphor, personification, and alliteration used in the poem create vivid images and convey the speaker's emotions effectively. The poem is a beautiful tribute to the speaker's mother and the inevitability of aging. Poetic devices. First one is simile. The poem begins with a simile where the speaker compares her mother's face to a pale winter moon. This simile creates an image of the mother's face, which is pale and almost lifeless, just like the moon's face on a winter night. Second one is metaphor. The speaker then uses a metaphor when she says, I watched my mother's face withered by age or falling prey to time. Here, the mother's face is compared to a prey that.
Good afternoon, respected teacher. This is Shirisha of class 12th. Today I am going to present my project on the chapter Keeping Quiet. So here we go. Keeping Quiet by Pablo Neruda. About the poet. Pablo Neruda was a Chilean poet and politician. He was originally named Neftali Ricardo Reis Basolto, but changed his name legally. Over the course of his writing career, Neruda became well known for his sometimes explicit love poems and also his political writing. One of the highlights of his career came in 1971 when he won the Nobel Prize for Literature. Pablo Neruda wrote about various topics including love, nature, politics, social change, and close examination of everyday objects. However, he is best known for his poems about love. Now let's get into the poem. Now we will count to 12 and we will all keep still. Here, the poet urges each one of us to count up to 12 and then be quiet. The poet might have used the phrase count to 12 as there are 12 hours represented on a clock. He might have wanted the people to keep still as long as they could. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. Here he wants a moment of silence on earth when no language is spoken and no harsh words will be spoken. Then He wants us to remain motionless. It would be an exotic moment without rush, without engines, we would all be together in a sudden strangeness. Here, the poet feels that such a moment of silence would be an unusual and exciting one. There will be no hurry or the sound of machines to pollute the atmosphere. In this unusual period, the bonds of humanity will get stronger and stronger. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales. In this moment of inactivity, the fisherman would not be catching fish. Hence, the whales in the sea will be safe. This idea is suggestive of the thought that human beings would not destroy nature. And the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Here, the man who gathers salt will be able to tend to his wounded hands for which he had no time earlier. Thus, both nature and humans will be able to recover from these wounds. Those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victory with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about their brothers in the shade doing nothing. Here the poet implies that war-torn world should be replaced by one with an atmosphere of peace, brotherhood and harmony. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. The poet makes a clarification that though he is advocating the need for silence, his advice should not be confused with total inactivity. He does not want any association with death. He says that life is meant to be lived. If we were not so single minded about keeping our lives moving, and for once could perhaps a youth's silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and on threatening ourselves with death. The poet further advises that people should stop being self centered and selfish, and people have been threatening themselves with death by their activities. This moment of silence will give them time to understand themselves better. Perhaps the earth can teach us as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now I will count up to 12 and you keep quiet and I will go. Here the poet feels that earth can enlighten us and guide us in this process of keeping quiet. Finally, the poet thinks that he has said what he intended to. And now he just wants us to keep quiet while he is counting to 12 after he will leave. So, I just want to conclude my presentation with a quote. Peace is not something you wish for, it is something you make, something you are, and something you do, and something you give away. Thank you so much.
I'm Miss Gayatri of class 12th A from Kendriya Vidyalaya number 2 Sri Vijayanagaram, Vishakhapatnam. Today I'm going to give a presentation of my favorite poem, A Thing of a Beauty from Flamingo textbook. About the poet. John Keats was born in 1795 and passed away in 1821. Was a British romantic poet. Although trained to be a surgeon, Keats decided to devote himself solely to poetry. Keats' secret is the power to sway and delight the readers, lies primarily in his gifts for perceiving the world and living in his moods and aspirations in terms of a language. The following is an excerpt from his poem Endymion, a poetic romance. The poem is based on a Greek legend in which Endymion, a beautiful young shepherd and a poet who lived on Mount Latmus, had a vision of Shentia, the moon goddesses. The enchanted youth resolved to seek her out and so wandered away through the forest and down under the sea. So, a Thing of a Beauty is written by John Keats. Now, this poem is an extract from his epic poem called Endymion, a poetic romance. Now, in this poem, the story is based on a Greek mythology where a shepherd named Endymion is going in search of his love. A thing of a beauty is a joy forever. Its loveliness increases. It will never pass into nothingness, but will keep a bower quiet for us, and a sleep full of sweet dreams and health and quiet breathing. So the poet says that a thing of a beauty is a joy forever. A thing of a beauty means anything that is beautiful.
So he says that anything is beautiful will give us a happiness forever. Loveliness means it's beautiful, and nothingness means decreases. So loveliness is a beautiful of a thing, keep on increasing. It will never pass into nothingness. Baba means shady place under trees. He says beauty is like a quiet and shady beautiful place under which we will sit and relax. It will give good sleep, peace, health, and quite healthy. Therefore, on every morrow are we wreathing a flowery band to bind us to the earth, spite of a despondence of the inhuman death of noble natures, of the gloomy days of all the unhealthy and over-darkened ways, made for our searching eyes in spite of all. Some shape of a beauty moves away the pall from our dark spirits. So the poet tells us that there are so many beautiful things around us, and all these beautiful things ties to the earth. That means bind us to the earth. So that's why he is asking, therefore, on every morrow are we wreathing a flowery band to bind us to the earth. Every morrow means tomorrow or the next day. Wreathing means binding or encircling. So he says that all these beautiful things encircle us and they tie us to the earth or bind us to the earth. So this is the reason why we all like to live, because we are connected to all beautiful things around us. Spite of despondence of the inhuman death of noble nature, despondence or hopelessness. So, there may be hopelessness in front of our eyes or in our own lives, because the earthly life is full of negativities and there are many sad moments, and these sad moments caused due to various reasons. One of them is hopelessness and another one is inhuman death, noble natures. That means lack of something. So what is lacking here? People with nobility. That means they don't have good qualities in them. There are so many people around us, but most of them are very selfish and lack nobility. So that's why he says in human dearth of noble natures, that means people with good quality are missing. Of the gloomy days of all unhealthy and over darkened ways. So there may be unhealthy days and there may be sad time in our life. So our life is surrounded with all these things, that is lack of good people, dark days, sad days, unhealthy days, and etc. Made for our searching eyes in spite of all. So, in spite of all these negativity ways, that means lack of good people, sad days, or unhealthy days, or any such thing moments when we keep searching for something good to happen. Some shape of a beauty moves away the pall from our dark spirits. So he says that whenever you are sad or whenever you are surrounded with negativities, some shape of a beauty moves always the pall. Pall means dark clouds. So it removes all the dark spirits from our eyes and it brightens up. So when we see the beautiful things, it gives us a lot of hope. It makes us and happy, and it makes us to forget all the negativities and other negative things in our life. Such the sun, the moon, trees old and young sprouting a shady boon. For simple sheep and such are daffodils with green world, they live in and clear rills, that for themselves a cooling covert make against the hot season. The mid-forest break. So the poet says that there are so many beautiful things surrounded us, and these beautiful things are provided to us by nature. And the examples according to his he says that we find around us beautiful things like the sun, moon, trees, old and young, All are beautiful. Trees old and young, sprouting a shady bone for a simple sheep. That means these trees and plants provide shade not only for each other living things, even for small animals like sheep, and also can enjoy the shade provided by the trees. Such are daffodils with a green world they live in and a clear rills. So it's not only the sun, moon, and a plant trees that are beautiful. He sees that there are also daffodils with the green world they live in. Daffodils are small beautiful flowers, and the green world is compared to the bushes where they bloom, especially in the forest. And we can also see clear rills. Clear rills means small streams. So all these things are also beautiful things given to us by nature. Sun, moon, trees, plants, daffodils, and clear rills. All these beautiful things find around us. These clear rills made themselves a cooling cover against the hot season. That means through which every area they flow, they make that area very cool for themselves, especially during hot seasons and the mid forest break. This means flow very slowly through these forest areas, and they make a cool area through the region which they flow. Rich white sprinkling of a fair musk rose blooms, and such too is the grandeur of domes. We have imagined for mighty dead all lovely tales that we have heard or read, an endless fountain of immortal drink pouring onto us from the heaven's brink. So now the poet tells us that there is some more beautiful things around us, like the musk roses, which are having such sweet smell, and this fragrance gives us happiness. Then he says that, and such too is the grandeur of domes we have imagined for mighty dead. Grandeur means something very magnificent. Dooms means death. Mighty people are great people who have lived inspiring lives. For example, in our own country, like we have Mahatma Gandhi ji, Shivaji ji, and Nehru ji. So many great people are there around us. So all lovely tales we have read or heard means all these lovely tales are pertaining to the lives of great people. So we might have or heard from other people, or we have also read so many stories about such people. So all these are endless fountain of immortal rings. So the poet says that all these beautiful from the sun, the moon, plants, trees, animals, flowers, stories. Everything is a fountain of an immortal ring. That means it comes down to us in the form of a fountain, pouring onto us from the heaven's brink. So he says that this brink comes from the heaven's brink. Brink means edge. So from the heaven we are getting the immortal ring, and this gives
A warm welcome to all the dignitaries. I, Vasu of class 12th A, am here to present Aunt Jennifer's Tigers. Now let's get into the presentation. Now let's start the presentation. Aunt Jennifer's Tigers. Aunt Jennifer Tigers was written by Edwin Rich. She was an American poet, essayist, and activist. Rich began writing poetry from a very young age and published numerous poetry collections and non-fiction prose collections throughout her lifetime. Let's get into the poem on Jennifer's Tiger. On Jennifer's tigers prance across the screen, bright topaz denizens of a world of green. They do not fear the men beneath the tree, they pace in sleek silvery certainty. Here topaz means a precious yellow colored stone, which symbolizes the tigers. Denizens means residents or natives. Chivalric means courtesy. On Jennifer's fingers fluttering through her wool, find even ivory needle hard to pull. The massive weight of Uncle's wedding band sits heavily upon Aunt Jennifer's hand. When Aunt is dead, her terrified hands will lie, still ringed with ordeals she was mastered by. The tigers in the panel that she made will go on prancing, proud and unafraid. Let's get into the explanation. And Jennifer's Tigers is a poem by Edwin Rich that highlights themes of patriarchy, oppression, and female empowerment. Here is a brief explanation. And Jennifer's Tapestry. And Jennifer creates a tapestry with images of tigers that are fearless and free. These tigers prance proudly, representing a stark contrast to Aunt Jennifer's own life. Aunt Jennifer's life. The poem suggests that Aunt Jennifer's life is constrained by an oppressive marriage. The heavy wedding band on her finger symbolizes the oppression and the burden of her duties. The contrast. The tiger in her artwork symbolizes the strength, confidence, and freedom that Aunt Jennifer lacks in her own life. While Aunt Jennifer is subdued and fearful, her tigers are bold and unafraid. Legacy. Despite Aunt Jennifer's personal struggles, her art remains. The tigers will continue to prance proudly, symbolizing the endurance of her creative spirit and the hope for freedom from oppression. Themes: oppression and freedom. The poem juxtaposes Aunt Jennifer's oppressed existence with the freedom of the tiger she creates. Gender roles. It comments on the restrictive roles and expectation placed on women, particularly in marriage. Art as escape. Aunt Jennifer's embroidery serves as an escape and a form of resistance, allowing her to express what she cannot live out. Imagery and symbolism. Tiger symbolizes power, freedom, and the unyielding spirit. Wedding band represents the constraints and burdens of marriage. Needlework reflects Aunt Jennifer's delicate but controlled creative expression. Now let's see some poetic devices of this poem. Metaphor. The poet has used bright topaz to show the vibrant yellow color of the tigers. Alliteration. It is a repetition of the letter at the start of closely placed words. The repetition of the letter C in silveric certainty and the repetition of the letter F in fluttering fingers. Personification. The poet has personified the ring by using words fit for it. Hyperbole. The poet has done exaggeration about the ring by talking about its massive weight. Thank you for listening my presentation. Hope you like it.
A very warm and happy greetings. Thank you for joining me here today. I'm Sanjana and this is my presentation regarding the English holiday homework for the following academic year 2024 and 25. And today I'm going to present this beautiful poem from a Flamingo textbook of 12th grade, which is written by John Keats, that is A Thing of Beauty. So when we talk about the poet, John Keats was born in London and the year he was born was 1795 and he died in Rome in 1821 at the young age of 25 due to illness. So he is a romantic poet. Today his poems are one of the most demanded creations in English literature, and A Thing of Beauty is an excerpt from his poem Endymion, a poetic romance which was written in 1818, considered to be an epic poem. So, introduction of this poem is, it was written by a British romantic poet, that is John Keats, and he published his poem Endymion in 1818, and this poem, A Thing of Beauty, was an extract which talks about how beautiful things gives us pleasure and relieve us from suffering and sorrow. So this is that beautiful and soothing poem which is very refreshing. So let's get into the explanation of this poem. So, a thing of beauty is a joy forever. Its loveliness increases, it will never pass into nothingness. So, here the poet says that beauty is eternal, it is forever, it never fades away, but instead our love for it enhances with the passage of time. But will keep a bower quiet for us, a sleep full of dreams and health and quiet breathing. Beauty acts like the soothing, relaxing shade of the trees, which helps all the creatures to sleep peacefully and enjoy good health. So, here this word bower means a shady place under the tree. Therefore, on every morrow are we wreathing a flowery band to bind us to the earth. Here the poet says that At every moment, our desire to live further is because we encircle ourselves with our love towards these beautiful things. As we get wrapped up in the beautiful flowery band, we get a reason to live further. And here, this word morrow means the following day, and rating means this round. And then, spite of despondence of the inhuman dearth of the noble natures of the gloomy days of all the unhealthy or the darkened ways. So here this word despondence means depressed and gloomy means sad. So here the poet says that without beauty the earth is full of gloom and sadness. There is cruelty all around and lack of good natured and humble people. Made for searching, yes, in spite of all, some shape of beauty moves away from the path from our dark spirits. So here the poet says that it is this beauty, the beautiful creation of God, which removes the sadness and darkness from our mind and soul. And here this word Bal means a dark cloud of gloom and sadness, and spirit means the cloud where our emotions lie. And then, such the sun, the moon, trees old, and young sprouting a shady boon for simple sheep. So here the poet names some of the things whose beauty is eternal. The sun, moon, greenery like trees whose shade is a boon for creatures like the sheep to rest under it. And sheep is used to indicate all the living beings. Here the word sprouting means to develop suddenly in a large number, and shady boon means a shade which is like a blessing. And such are daffodils with the green world they live in, and clear rills that for themselves a cooling cover make against the hot season. So here the poet says various flowers like daffodils make the earth so green and lively, and rivers full of clear waters cool everyone in the summer. The mid-forest brake, rich with a sprinkling of fair musk rose blooms. So here the poet says that the thick green bushes of the forest ferns where beautiful fragrant musk roses bloom. And here the words rills means a small stream of running water, and covered means not openly known or displayed. And rack means a process to slow down. Then and such too is the grandeur of the dooms we have imagined for the mighty dead, all lovely tales that we have heard or read. So here the poet says that other than these things of nature, the poet says that the stories of brave men who sacrifice their lives are also beautiful and inspiring for these generations. So, and then an endless fountain of immortal ring pouring on us from the heaven spring. So here the poet says that all these beautiful things are like nectar for us. God's gift to us, these forever living beautiful things are precious to us and helps us to live happily on this earth. And here the words grandeur means socially important so as to impress, and dooms means the last day of existence, mighty means enormous, immortal means living forever, and heaven spring means the edge of the door of the gods. And here the poetic devices that are used are alliteration, metaphor, and imagery. So, alliteration means it is a literary device that uses similar phonetic sounds in continuity to make an effect, and this device is usually used to decorate the words with a musical, lyrical, or emotional effect. Metaphor, and it is a common poetic device where an object in or the subject of a poem is described as being the same as another otherwise unrelated object. So here, imagery is a literary device which is used to um, make imaginations in poetry, novels, and other writing that is used uh, variedly and through languages. Imagery does not only paint a picture but aims to portray the sensational and emotional experiences within it. And it uses different type of descriptions that appeals a reader to sense or create an image or an idea in their head about the poetry, novels, and other writings. So this is all about the presentation. Thank you so much for giving your precious time. Have a nice day.